Hello everyone, we're back with another gaming challenge, and today we'll find out how many gadgets do you need to use in order to beat Batman Arkham Origins. This is the third video of the Batman series we're doing on the channel. In the first two we covered Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, so now it's time to go back to the beginning of the Dark Knight and complete the third game of the series. Before we begin with the challenge, let's go through the rules, and they're pretty simple. Number 1 is that I'll be counting any gadget uses that I commit. However, if a gadget is automatically triggered or happens in a cutscene, I do not count it because I have no control over Batman's actions at that point. I will also be playing on the hard difficulty of the game, which only matters when facing bosses against who you have to use gadgets. And with the rules out of the way, we can now begin with the challenge. Our story begins in the lovely Blackgate prison, which has its checks notes. First riot of the night? What do you mean first? Are you telling me there's gonna be a second one? Well, that's Blackgate for you. I guess we're having multiple riots tonight. I was just minding my own business looking around the prison when I was attacked by a bunch of prisoners and black mask thugs who wanted to take away my lunch money. I couldn't let them do that, and even saw a drone that I could steal, so I chased down the drone, but that was a mistake because that led to my first gadget use of the video, which was the grapple in order to continue chasing the drone. I then got to beat up a brute and had to use another grapple shot in order to move forward. And here we encounter the first case where we can skip a gadget use because the game wants us to use our detective vision. However, we can just throw a batarang at the button and the door will open. My only question is, why is that button located in a place where only Killer Croc can get it? It feels very unnecessary, not gonna lie. And when you're done beating up some thugs, you have to use the explosive gel for the first time, and then you sneak into Calendar Man's cell, who has some interesting calendars to say the least, and use the Batclaw in order to open up the vent. After that you have to use the explosive gel again in order to absolutely blow this guy out of existence, and then you have to press these two buttons, and unfortunately you cannot use one batarang and click the second button yourself. You have to use two batarangs in order to open the door, and then use your Batclaw in order to open up another vent. You then watch as Commissioner Loeb gets executed, and for some reason cutscene Batman doesn't use his explosive gel on the window. You know, that would probably work better than your shoulder, mate. But why not? Just leave the Commissioner to die. It's not like anyone would miss him. You then have to use your grapple gun in order to get to the roof where you fight Killer Croc, and you have to be careful to grapple up to the highest point possible, as that way you only need to do one grapple use and you won't have to deal with anything else. After that you have to fight with Killer Croc and his goons, and they're pretty easy to defeat considering it's only the first boss of the game, so you don't have to use any gadgets against the Croc. You then learn that Roman Sayanis, the Black Mask, has sent assassins against you, and you have to go and fix one of the radio towers in order to be able to use the Batwing. And unfortunately the game has the bright idea to show you a tutorial about how to deal with predator encounters, and it's literally the same thing as it was in Arkham City. You have to throw a smoke pellet, then grapple up, then use detective vision and grapple up one more time in order to take down the goon who is holding the hostage, and lastly you have to grapple up a third time in order to take down the final enemy. You then encounter the most frustrating part of the whole game, the first crime scene investigation, where you have to scan the body, you have to scan the panel, and then you have to scan a keycard. So you activate the evidence scanner, you scan the body, you scan the panel, and then Batman is like, oh wait, there's a key card that I need to find, let me review the footage. Which would be fine, except for the part where for some reason he gets out of detective vision. And so you have to go back to detective vision in order to review the footage and see that the key card clearly falls into the vent, and yet you have to then close detective vision off again just to take off the hatch. And instead of Batman being like, okay, I can get the card and I can use the code now. No. You have to activate detective vision once again just to scan the damn keycard. I swear this game does it on purpose, it knows that I'm doing this challenge and just annoys me for no reason. Anyway, after finally acquiring the code, you use the cryptographic sequencer in order to open the door, and then you fix the tower by using the cryptographic sequencer again, where you get a message from the Riddler which you ignore because you never go to meet him. Then you have to fix a second radio tower in order to find the Penguin and where he is hiding. And to do that you have to use the remote controlled Batarang in order to open the door, and then the cryptographic sequencer in order to fix the tower. You then have an automatic gadget use when Batman tries to find the Penguin's radio stations, and these automatic uses happen 3 times, as every time Batman tries to hack into a Penguin's computer, he pulls out the cryptographic sequencer automatically, so these do not count towards the final score. You find out that the Penguin is hiding on his boat, the final offer, where you have to beat up a bunch of thugs in order to enter, and inside of the boat you have to use your Batclaw in order to pull up this wooden raft. And then you have to use the Batclaw 4 more times in order to get yourself into a position where you can use the grapple and proceed forward. And when you go deeper into the boat, you have to use the grapple 2 more times, and then you have to use the Batclaw in order to open a way through to the arena, where you literally one-shot the electrocutioner, and then you have to beat up a bunch of thugs, but after the electrocutioner these guys are even more pathetic. And when you beat up those guys you have to continue your search for the Penguin, and for some reason there's a huge chunk of ice there, which you have to break using your explosive gel, because for some reason this ice is harder than Batman's punches. When you're done there you have to grapple up a total of 3 times in order to proceed to the next area, where you have to beat up a few guys. After that you have to use your Batclaw in order to collapse the ceiling, and then grapple up to the next floor and take the vent. You confront Tracy and she sends all her goons against you, and after a while you have to use the cryptographic sequencer in order to open up the secret door and beat up a few more thugs, which will allow you to get to the elevator. There Tracy tries to fight back, however you absolutely annihilate her and use the cryptographic sequencer in order to open the next door and get closer to the Penguin. But before getting to Cobblepot you have to go through a Predator section, and then when you finally reach Oswald, you're attacked by Deathstroke, who ruins your party and you have to fight with him. And to be honest, the Deathstroke fight might be the best one in the game, because it's just a one-on-one encounter between 2 great fighters. One of them has a sword, true, but the other one doesn't need any gadgets in order to be victorious. And to add insult to injury, after you defeat Deathstroke, you steal his remote claw, because I guess he wouldn't need it in jail, but still, why would you do the guy like that, Batman? That was too much. And you immediately have to use the remote claw in order to create a ledge where you can use the grapple on and continue chasing the Penguin. But I guess because he locked his door, Batman was stopped forever and just gave up on chasing the Penguin. After that, in order to leave the boat, you have to use the remote claw 1 more time in order to walk on the rope and finally be able to leave the boat. From the Penguin you heard that the Black Mask has been murdered, so you go around and beat up a few policemen in order to learn what happened. Then Batman automatically uses the cryptographic sequencer, and then you have to sneak into the Black Mask's apartment in order to investigate the crime scene. And then mercifully you only have to use the evidence scanner 1 time in order to investigate the whole crime scene, and then go back to the Batcave in order to acquire the concussion detonator, which will become relevant later on, but for now you do not need. You then have to acquire data about all the criminals in Gotham, and to do so you have to sneak inside the GCPD building, and to do that you have to beat up a few guards, and then you're free to go inside of it. Inside of the building you have to destroy this wall using your explosive gel, and then beat up a few policemen who are just doing their jobs. After that you use the Batclaw in order to open a vent, and then you grapple up inside of the vent, which leads you to this place where Batman is like, I cannot defeat all these policemen, I'm too weak to do so. However, I rather fight the whole police department than use the remote claw just to avoid them. So that's what I did, and I defeated every single one of them. It took a bit of time, but everyone was defeated in the end, and I didn't have to use the remote claw in order to beat them. And then, weirdly enough, you have to use the cryptographic sequencer in order to open a very normal looking door, which doesn't look like it has any electronics on it, and then use the grapple in order to climb up another door, and lastly use your explosive gel in order to blow up a few wooden boards. You then have to grapple up to the next floor, which leads you to another Predator section where you pretty easily deal with the policeman and have to use the cryptographic sequencer yet again in order to open a door. You then attempt to use the cryptographic sequencer again. Unfortunately, your signal is jammed, so you wasted that gadget use. After that, Batman automatically activates detective vision and scans the jammer, and so you have to go and get the disruptor. And in order to do that, you have to go to the infirmary where you have to blow up this wall using the explosive gel. After that, you have to grapple up to higher ground and then use the remote claw in order to grapple up and reach the vent, which will lead you to the evidence locker where you will acquire the disruptor. You have to immediately use it in order to disable one of the jammers. Before that, Batman automatically activates detective vision again, and after you destroy the jammer, you have to use the cryptographic sequencer in order to open the door, and then you proceed to beat up everyone because there was a rat in the prison cells, which annoyingly blocked off your way out, so you had to grapple up one time in order to just return to the place you were beforehand. You then have to grapple up one more time and you're back to the door leading to the server room where you have to use the disruptor and the cryptographic sequencer combo in order to access it. Inside of it you meet with Barbara Gordon and acquire the data you need, after which you have to get out of the GCPD, and to do so you have to use the cryptographic sequencer again. Your next stop are the sewers beneath the GCPD, where you will be able to find the full criminal database, and in order to get there you have to use the explosive gel in order to blow up these wooden boards. And I guess these boards are reinforced or something, because in any other game Batman can just punch them and they fall off, but in this one they do not fall. You have to use the explosive gel on them, otherwise you're stuck. Anyway, in order to get to the criminal database, you'd have to grapple up 3 times, beat up a goon, and then use the Batclaw in order to open a way forward, which allows you to use the remote claw and then the grapple one more time, which then makes you use the cryptographic sequencer, and then you're finally at the place where the criminal database is held. You can then get out of there pretty easily without using any gadgets. Then you're confronted by Mad Hatter's men, who immediately die when they see you, and in order to open up the garage door you have to use the cryptographic sequencer, and you're free to roam Gotham once more without issues. Your next mission is to go to the Bank of Gotham, and of course the front door is locked, so what you have to do is use your explosive gel in order to blow up the wall, then use the cryptographic sequencer and disruptor combo, after which you have to use the Batclaw in order to open up a vent, and then grapple up inside of the vent, and finally you have to use the explosive gel in order to blow up the floor, and that would lead you to your first meeting with the Joker. The place then gets blown up and you wake up next to this lovely lady, and then Batman automatically uses his grapple as there is a Predator section coming up. Thanks to the goons you learn that the Joker is hiding in the steel mill, and that's your next destination. Inside of the steel mill, the Joker's men have set up a turret which would shoot at you whenever you try to enter, so you have to use the Batclaw and grapple up combo. Then you need to use the grapple again or the disruptor in order to take down the turret, after which you have to use the cryptographic sequencer, then beat up a bunch of thugs and then use the Batclaw in order to violently open up this wall. You then grapple up and use the elevator, and for some reason Batman decides that he has nothing better to do, so he decides to scan a corpse. After that, in order to get out of the elevator, you need to use the cryptographic sequencer again. And after a Predator section, you're attacked by Copperhead, so you have to fight with her now. And despite being poisoned, Batman still has the power to activate the evidence scanner in order to scan the poison he was injected with. And then the Copperhead fight is pretty easy, you don't have to use any gadgets to fight her. Using the electrocutioner's signal, you manage to track down the location of the other assassins, and after using the cryptographic sequencer, followed by the remote claw and grapple combo, you are able to get yourself inside of the Gotham Royal Hotel. And by now you know the drill, you have to beat up a bunch of thugs. After that you use the cryptographic sequencer in order to get into the security room, where you have front row seats to see how the Joker kills the electrocutioner, and I guess Batman sees that as an absolute win, because the first thing he does is steal the electrocutioner's gloves and claim them for his own. Then you immediately have to use the gloves in order to get to higher ground, and after 2 more uses of the grapple, you're able to get to a higher floor of the hotel. You then have to use a series of gadgets in order to proceed forward. First is the electrocutioner's gloves, then is the Batclaw. Thankfully you don't have to use the grapple, and then again with the electrocutioner's gloves in order to have the elevator go up, which for some reason stops 2 floors too early, so you have to grapple up to the 19th floor. And the gadget uses are not done yet, as you have to then use the electrocutioner's gloves again, then use the remote claw and grapple up combo in order to get to the other building, and then deactivate a turret using your disruptor. After that you immediately use the gloves again, and then you have to grapple up and use the remote claw, and after that use the grapple in order to get up to a vent, followed by the Batclaw in order to open up a path ahead. Followed by that you have to grapple up once more, beat up a few thugs, and then you have to save the Joker's thugs. To do so you have to use the Batarang twice, the remote claw once, the grapple once, and the explosive gel once. Finally you have to use the cryptographic sequencer and the remote controlled Batarang in order to get out of there by using the grapple once more. This only leads you to yet another Joker puzzle where you have to use the Batarang 8 whole times. After that you take a break by having a brawl with a bunch of guys, but then you have to use the grapple up one more time. Followed by that you have to use the combo of the remote claw and the grapple, and then the explosive gel in order to blow up a wall of planks. After that you have to grapple up the most randomly placed gargoyle ever, and then use the grapple a second time in order to get to an even higher floor. There you have to use the electrocutioner's gloves to open up a door. And there you find that the Joker wanted to blow up the whole hotel, so you have to stop that by using the cryptographic sequencer. You then have to escape by jumping out of the window, and Batman automatically grapples up the helicopter. After that you have to beat up a bunch of thugs, and when you defeat them you have to grapple up once, which leads you to a Predator fight against Bane's mercenaries, and when you defeat them you have to use the cryptographic sequencer in order to access the penthouse elevator. Unfortunately for you, Bane manages to sniff you out, and to put it simply, he takes out his anger on you. He even brings you to the Joker, but he doesn't use the opportunity to kill you, and instead you have to fight with Bane for the first time. And just like with the other boss fights up to this point, you don't have to use any gadget in order to defeat him. And with that, Bane is defeated, the Joker is arrested. I was pretty much done for the night. But then I got a message that there was a guy in the GCPD morgue that looked exactly like Bane. I couldn't pass that opportunity. I had to look and find whether it was really Bane so I can do my victory dance in front of his corpse. Unfortunately for me, Alfred wanted to stop me because he claimed that Bane deserved to rest in peace if he was dead, and I said no, I had to make sure that he was dead and do my victory dance in front of his corpse. That was pretty much the only reason I wanted to go in the first place. Alfred said that he was disappointed with me, however that didn't stop me from going to the morgue And to do so you have to use your newly found glue grenades. First on the lower pipe, you don't have to use it on the top one, and then you have to use a glue grenade again on this pipe in order to move forward. Then you have to use a third glue grenade and finally use the cryptographic sequencer in order to access the morgue, where you have to use the evidence scanner in order to realize that this is not actually Bane and it's just some random guy. Disappointed, I had to leave the morgue, and to do so I had to grapple up once and use one glue grenade in order to get out. Now knowing that Bane was certainly alive, I went to his hideout, and in order to access it I had to use the explosive gel once. After that you have to use the glue grenade as a raft and use the Batclaw twice in order to reach your destination. After that I found out that Bane knew who I actually was, so this made things even more personal with him. Naturally I also burned down his home so he would know who's boss. Then you have to get out of his hideout the same way you came, by using one glue grenade and two Batclaw shots. After that Batman uses the cryptographic sequencer automatically, and with one grapple you are able to exit the hideout. Unfortunately, before I had the chance to confront Bane, Firefly decided to finally show up, and so I had to deal with him. To do so I tried to get help from Commissioner Gordon. Unfortunately he didn't want to help me, so I had to do everything on my own as always. I first had to use the cryptographic sequencer in order to open the elevator door. After that I had to use the grapple in order to get to higher ground, followed by the Batclaw in order to open a vent. I then had to power up an elevator to get out of the way, and in here you only have to use a glue grenade on one of the pipes, and then you have to grapple up twice, followed by a Batclaw shot in order to open up a vent, and you have arrived to the location of the first bomb you have to defuse. You beat up a guy pretty roughly, but he tells you where the bombs are, and you can use the cryptographic sequencer in order to defuse the first bomb. When you go after the second bomb, you have to use the electrocutioner's gloves, and then, shockingly, you are able to break a wall with your fists for once. After that you arrive at the location of the second bomb, and Batman even activates his detective vision automatically, which makes the short predator section even easier to deal with. After that you use the cryptographic sequencer in order to defuse the second bomb. For the third bomb you have to use the electrocutioner's gloves, and after that you attempt to use your explosive gel. However, before you're able to do anything with it, the floor below you crumbles, so you have to figure out a different way up. To do so you have to grapple up once and then use the remote claw, followed by two more grapples, and then you're back where you were supposed to be, and you can take out the snipers who are protecting the third bomb. You use the cryptographic sequencer on the bomb, and then you have to go back the way you came. However, this time you actually get to use the explosive gel on the wall you failed the previous time. Finally, to go after the last bomb you have to use the electrocutioner's gloves, which leads you to a short predator section where you have to beat up a bunch of thugs, and then use the electrocutioner's gloves again. After that, since the bridge has pretty much been destroyed, you have to grapple up on one of the broken pieces, and then grapple up a second time because Firefly annoyed you way too much, so it's time to fight with him now. And to begin the fight you have to use the Batclaw against Firefly, because otherwise you're stuck in an endless stare down with him for some reason. He never tries to attack you, he never tries to activate the bomb, he just stares at you like an idiot. After that, when the proper fight begins, you have to just avoid all his shots until his suit breaks down, and then use the concussion detonator. I told you it would get useful eventually. After that you use the Batclaw in order to pull him down and damage him. On hard difficulty you have to use both the detonator and the Batclaw 4 times, and after that you have a change of scenery where you have to grapple up once, and then you do the exact same thing. You have to use the concussion detonator and Batclaw 4 times against Firefly, and to finish him off you have to use the grapple against him in order to climb and destroy his suit. Then you have to go back to the Batcave where you find out that Bane has wreaked havoc and has destroyed everything. Inside of the Batcave you have to find Alfred after he was beaten up by Bane. And annoyingly, even if you know where exactly Alfred is, it doesn't matter, you have to first fix the Bat computer, which would reactivate your detective vision, and I guess the game just got very annoyed with me because I didn't activate detective vision. The game just activated it on its own, so I was able to find Alfred without using detective vision, which was awesome. Alfred said that he was proud of me and then he died. I couldn't let that happen, I couldn't let him go, so I used the electrocutioner's gloves in order to revive him, and shockingly this actually revived him and Alfred was alright. After I made sure that Alfred was alright, it was time for me to get my revenge against Bane. He may insult me, he may reveal my secret identity, but he has no right to go after Alfred. He had to be put down. And conveniently there was a second riot in Blackgate prison for tonight, so I knew where I had to go in order to find Bane. In Blackgate, after you deal with some rioters, you have to use the explosive gel in order to destroy the wooden planks on the floor. And unfortunately when you fall down one story too low, so you have to use the grapple ones in order to move forward. Then in the next part you have to use the remote claw a total of 3 times. And then you have to use the explosive gel in order to get rid of the planks that are blocking your way. Then you violently turn off the power and have to use the glue grenade as a raft again, and then if you place yourself in the exact position necessary, you can get to the next area by only using 1 bat claw shot instead of 2. You then have to grapple up and use the remote controlled Batarang in order to destroy a panel which will allow you to raise the water level, so that you can use another glue grenade raft and the explosive gel in order to blow up a wall and proceed forward. After that you have to close off 10 pipes using your glue grenade and use 1 more glue grenade shot in order to make a raft for a total of 11 glue grenade uses, and when you're done with the grenades you have to grapple up once. Then you have to use the electrocutioner's gloves and grapple up the elevator shaft, which would lead you to a predator section against all the prisoners. After that you rescue Harley in Quinzel. I'm pretty sure she would have no relevance to the Batman story like at all. Then you participate in 2 massive brawls where I'm pretty sure you beat up the whole prison yard. And then it's time to fight with Bane for the second time, which is essentially a twisted version of rock paper scissors, because either you, Bane or Joker has to die during this fight. And so during the fight itself with Bane, if you use the Ultra Stun and just avoid his punches, you don't have to use any gadgets in order to defeat him. However, after that Batman uses the electrocutioner's gloves during the cutscene and he stops Bane's heart. The Joker gets satisfied by the outcome, however Batman has an idea and uses the electrocutioner's gloves in order to revive Bane as well, just like he did with Alfred. Unfortunately, Bane isn't too happy that he was killed and then revived by Batman, so he decides to use his Titan formula and becomes absolutely unhinged. And during the third Bane fight you don't need to use any gadgets, because all you have to do is sneak up behind him. But I gotta appreciate Batman's durability. I don't know how he took that 3-shot combo and is still alive, let alone being able to fire 2 remote claw shots in order to trap Bane and electrocute him. With Bane defeated you have to grapple up once, which would allow you to continue chasing the Joker, and that is also the final gadget use of the game, as after that you find the Joker and you beat him up and he's arrested. And now that we've completed the challenge we can go through the final scores. And so the most used gadget is the grapple, of course, with 65 uses. In second place it's followed by the Batclaw with 31 uses to its name. After that we have the cryptographic sequencer with 26 uses, followed by the glue grenades with 20 uses. Next up is the explosive gel with 16 whole uses, followed closely by the remote claw which has 14, and the electric gloves which have 13. the Batarang got 12 uses, and the Concussion Detonator got 8. The Evidence Cam scored 7, and the Disruptor had 6. The remote controlled Batarang only was used 3 times, while the normal Detective Vision was only activated once, and the Smoke Pellet was also used only 1 time. This means that in order to beat Batman Arkham Origins on hard mode, you have to use a total of 203 gadgets. This is the highest amount of gadgets we've had to use during our series, and now we only have Arkham Knight left in order to complete the Batman series. But for now, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestions for challenges I can attempt on the Batman game or on any other, you can feel free to write your suggestion in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!